Okay, so people are slowly joining in, and we'll start in 1 minute. Okay, fantastic. So, well, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to this webinar on PhD admission for a PhD in data science or AI at the Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI at IIT Madras. My name is Amritash. I'm an alumnus of IIT Madras and a long-time fan of Ravindran sir. So I'm very excited to introduce him today. Before that, a little bit about the webinar. First of all, my gratitude to all of you to come today with very short notice. We had 500 plus registrations today. Professor, if you can go to the second slide. Um, we had 500 plus registrations from all over the country, from many institutes. A lot of questions were asked beforehand. Sir, the questions that came, I have categorized them into five main topics. Some questions around PhD admissions, how to apply, what is the process. Some of them are from working professionals. So some questions were about pathways to transition from industry to PhD. There are a lot of questions about future of AI research and specifically the research areas at the department. And of course, the question that is there always about PhD, what are the career outcomes after PhD? Although I think that in AI, that question is asked less than it used to be earlier. Um, Audience, I want you to, before Professor Ravindran takes the mic, I want to just introduce him. Professor Ravindran is a researcher in reinforcement learning, one of the top researchers across the world. He's been teaching at IIT Madras for many, many years now, earlier in the Department of Computer Science and now in the Department of, in the Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI. His classes are very popular. His own BTech students, his master's students, his PhD students, and also his students who join him online and those who watch his lectures on YouTube. Professor Ravindran took over as the first HOD of the department. He also heads the Center for the CRI Center for Excellence, which he will talk about. I consider it a privilege for me to having known him in spite of being such an accomplished professor. He's also very warm and very friendly to his students and collaborators. Thank you, Professor, for joining us today. I hand over to you.
Thank you, Amritash. And so again, I echo what Amritash said. I'm very happy to see the level of interest that people have in both the Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI, and broadly in actually pursuing a career in research in AI, which is very heartening for me from both the IIT Madras perspective and also from a national perspective. So to kind of set the scene, right? It's really a great time to be in data science and AI, right? Especially because we are breaking new ground. Literally every few months we are seeing, not even few months, every few weeks we are seeing new announcements coming, new breakthroughs being announced, being showcased by companies and also from other research labs as well as products that are coming out to the market right now, and not just in the US and China, which we have been hearing for a while, but we are also hearing these news items coming from India now, from Indian homegrown companies. Right, so it's a great time to be in data science and AI, right? Because we are fundamentally changing the nature of how every job is happening, and in fact fundamentally the nature of how the society is going to function going forward. So AI is now proving to be a true generational technology, and it's a great being here at the Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI, you can help drive the future directions, right? And so at the Wadhwani School, we do both, basic research, looking at addressing really hard questions with regard to building the next generation AI systems, and also as well as making sure we build these models so that they can be applied to solve problems, right? And hard real world problems, not made up toy problems or games, but looking at problems that can potentially operate at population scale, right? For example, whether it is education, that I'll talk about a little bit about in a minute, or whether it is healthcare, and there's so many challenges when it comes to applying AI solutions at the population scale. So I think this is something that's one of the few places that you can do this. Of course, you cannot do this in too many countries, the scale of population that we have here, and so it makes it a really hard problem for us to solve. Right. So another unique thing about the School of Data Science and AI is that it is highly interdisciplinary in nature. So when we formed the school itself, so we had faculty from 10 different disciplines move in to form the initial cohort of faculty at the Wadhwani school, right? And that kind of permeates a lot of the work that we do. So it is not just theoretical research divorced from applications, but we do hard theory, but at the same time, many of the theoretical questions that we ask are motivated by real applications, whether it comes from biology, whether it comes from transportation or engineering or design, right? So we have people who work across the spectrum, including a strong focus on AI for science. Right? And IIT Madras is a great place if you want to do collaborative research, right? But both with other academic institutions, but also with the industry, right? So we are one of the most industry facing IIT, right? And we have been more than a decade now. We have been running the IIT Madras Research Park, which has been fantastic in being the largest, academic research facility, industrial research facility in the country. And so there are 100 plus companies that are operating the research park, and we continue to collaborate with them, but also with organizations across the globe. Right? It's not just. I have a slide later, I think, where we talk about the amazing industry coordination that we have set up. Right, and as well as collaborating with academia, both in research and also in some of the degree programs that we offer. We work with universities across the globe and with some of the top research teams. And IIT Madras is the place to go, especially if you are looking at research that drives some of the policy behind technology, whether it has been the telecom policies that the government has been looking at, and or whether the AI policy that is coming up nowadays, right? So IIT Madras has played a big role in this nationally, right? And so one of the things that we focus on, we want to drive from the Wadhwani school, is something which not too many others would want to focus in outside of India, right? So while India is ranked pretty high in terms of AI development talent that is available and so on and so forth. But if you look at a lot of the problems that many of these AI solutions solve are typically first world problems, right? Because scaling to India level, right? Indian population level and the diversity that exists in India. So it's always a much harder challenge, right? So what we are focused on at the Wadhwani School is not just to do cutting edge AI research, but to enable that to solve India's problems, right? So it's not just solving the most popular first world problems. So that's something that we have been focused on, right? And just to give you a sampler of why it is the right time to be here and why you should be here. What's the right time to do research in AI and why you should be at IIT Madras? You can see some of the headlines that have been coming out, right? So especially, so Demis Hassabis was there at the India AI Impact Summit. And so one of the things that was really catching us was what is the energy, the amazing energy that the youth of today are putting out in terms of trying to get into AI, solve AI's problems, and also making sure that we are competitive with the world. Right? And so IIT Madras, again, we have been putting out multiple solutions that are there, and several of the individual faculty have received global recognition. My colleague Mitesh Kapra was one of the first academics from India to be named in the Time magazine's top AI 100 list. right? And likewise, we have various solutions. For example, there is this recent initiative through the EduReach platform, which reaches about 19 lakh students that help evaluate students and help the teachers build AI-driven evaluation platforms and also track the performance of students over time. So quickly stepping back to a little bit of history. So the Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI is IIT Madras' 18th and so far the latest department. And we launched the school on 30th January 2024 with, like I said, experienced faculty from multiple 10 departments here, 10 different departments, ranging from computer science, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, biosciences, management school, mathematics, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, design, and so on, right? And it was started with a corpus fund of 110 crores from Sunil Wadhwani, who is one of our alum and distinguished alum. And the department itself started in May of 2024 with the first cohort of MS and PhD students admitted into the program from July 2024. And so the school is set up as an umbrella body that covers a lot of work under AI and data science, right? So we have a teaching component, which is the Department of Data Science and AI, which offers multiple degrees, including a new BTech in AI and data analytics, and an MTech program in data science and AI, where the intake is through GATE, and of course an MS and PhD programs, which are primarily research programs. And we also offer other programs such as a joint MSc with the University of Birmingham and several training programs, and as well as skilling programs for working professionals. So the PhD program itself has been designed to be have a wide funnel. So we would encourage people with varying background to enroll in the PhD program, so that the interdisciplinary nature of the department can be maintained and people can work on problems with significant impact across disciplines, right? So we want people to come and work on AI for science. We want people to look at AI policy, but we also want people to come and work on hard optimization problems. We want people to come and solve tricky technical issues with building AI for education, for primary education, and so on and so forth. So we want people working across the spectrum, right? And if you have been following us online, so you know that we do have very impactful research coming out from the Wadhwani School in various areas. So apart from the teaching programs and the research programs themselves, we also have several interdisciplinary research centers, right? So the largest and probably the most popular of these is the AI for Bharat Center, which has been at the forefront of building Indian language AI, right? So whether it be some of the early Indic language LLMs or the Indian translation modules, which are very widely used now across the board by even commercial organizations, right? So AI for Bharat has been at the forefront of creating these AI models, and almost all of the models that they have created are all out in the open, and they also have been publishing a lot of data sets. And not only that, it's not just it's the tools and the data sets that have been creating impact, but they've also won, their researchers have won several best paper awards in some of the top venues globally, right? And Pratyush, who was one of the co-founders of AI for Bharat, then went on to found Sarvam.ai, co-found Sarvam.ai, which many of you must have heard has been creating a lot of waves in the country now, and they still continue to work closely with IIT Madras. Right. So, and then after AI for Bharat, we also have the Center for Responsible AI, which is the one of the very few centers globally, and certainly the only one in India, that looks at both the technical aspect of building responsible AI systems. This kind of looks at issues such as explainability of AI models, transparency of these, as well as issues with regard to robustness, fairness, ethical development of AI technology, and coming up with new benchmarks and evaluation protocols for AI systems, as well as looking at new metrics themselves, right, for evaluating AI models and so on and so forth. So a lot of technical work gets done in that space, and we also look at more policy-related issues, things like, hey, what kind of regulatory structures are appropriate for India or appropriate for low-resource countries, as well as what kind of voluntary commitments would the industry be willing to accept, and looking at also social impact of AI, like what is the perception of AI among various users, various stakeholders in the system, as well as things like, hey, what will be the future of work, what will be the future of society, what will be the future of even technology look like in a human AI allied world going forward, right? And so that is the set of questions that we explore under the Center for Responsible AI. And then we have IBSC, which is the Center for Integrative Biology and Systems Medicine, which does a lot of work in genomics. And so IIT Madras and the Wadhwani School are the primary data partners for the India 10K Genome Project, which was started with the mandate for sequencing and analyzing 10,000 unique Indian genomes. And now this is expanded into potentially a million genome project, which we have submitted a proposal for, so should be hearing soon. There's a lot of work that happens on looking at the impact of microbiome on various health and other public health outcomes, including one of my colleagues partnering with various global teams to look at the microbiome that was there on the International Space Station. So we do a lot of work in cancer genome research as well, and other kinds of multi-omics research. So a lot of work that happens in that space. That's I think that's probably the oldest research center. Predates the school by several years, but now it is very much a part of the Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI. Then we have the Walmart Center for Tech Excellence that looks at AI for MSMEs, solving various specific sector-specific problems, but also working on building AI frameworks and protocols that can be deployed across various industries, right? And then we have MINT, which is the Mobility and Intelligent Transportation Collective, that looks at problems with regard to AI for intelligent transportation and smart mobility and so on and so forth. And they have a consortium that is trying to build a digital public infrastructure for building smart mobility solutions for India. And then we have a quantitative research lab that's funded by AlphaGrep. And we also have very recently started Bodhan.ai, which is a National Center of Excellence in AI for Education, where we are trying to build this Bharat Edu AI stack, which is a set of tools and solutions which can run on a very, very small digital footprint that can help people build innovative AI-enabled solutions for education across the board, right? Whether it is school, primary education, or higher education, all the way to research. So that's something that we're looking at. And so these research centers are not just application-driven center, right? They are actually lead to a lot of interesting fundamental research questions, and that we also tackle at the school, including novel optimization techniques, or even folks that are looking to understand how deep learning itself evolves, and how would you involve more concrete physics models into machine learning architecture and so on and so forth. So a lot of very interesting questions that we ask, right? So you should explore the the web pages and papers published by individual faculty to get a flavor of these. And we are also putting out a lot of explainer videos. Right? And so some of the examples, particularly in the education space, which we have already created significant impact. One of them is the AI Samarth initiative, which was on building AI curriculum for both the teachers and students in school. This is more on an AI awareness curriculum. So this was in collaboration with one of our partners, and where we looked at building curriculum for 6th, 7th, and 8th grades on AI awareness, not just for the students, but also for the teachers, so that they can teach more efficiently. And now this has gone to 9 states, which are trying to do a pilot on this. And then the Vidya Shakti initiative, which again we are collaborating with, which goes to rural schools across India. They've actually influenced thousands and thousands of schools and have shown already significant grade improvements in the performance of 8th to 10th grade students in math and science and English. I mentioned EduReach already, that already reached out to some 19,000 schools. So quickly, some numbers. So we have about 20 faculty in the department as of today, But by the time the semester starts and you join, there'll be another 3 more who would have joined. So we'd be at 23 core faculty in the department. But we also have a lot of people who are associated with the department in various ways. So we have 3 visiting faculty and adjunct faculties, process of practice, affiliate faculties who work in other departments primarily, but also work on research in our department, and associate fellows who are not part of the IIT system, but who work very closely with us, both in research as well as in project guidance. Right. And we are close to 500 students already. So you can see that our MS and PhD programs are relatively small but growing rapidly. And of course, we have close to 150 publications that have already come out, and several of these in very high impact venues. And like I already mentioned, I think we have about five best paper award winners in just in the last 2 years from the school. So quick introduction to our faculty. So there is Agastya Bhatti, one of our new faculty, new joinees who works in computational chemistry, drug discovery, and drug design. And Arun Rajkumar, who works on machine learning, core machine learning problems, and things like rank aggregation and learning to rank, so on and so forth. And myself, who works in reinforcement learning, as Amritash mentioned, but I also do a lot of work in responsible AI now, and as well as geometric deep learning. And Balaji, who works on AI, like physics-informed AI models for solving hard problems in simulations and high performance modeling. And Chandrasekhar Lakshminarayanan, who works in reinforcement learning again, and also in understanding network dynamics. And Krishna Pilutla, who works on AI, privacy preserving AI, and as well as federated learning. And he is one of the few Schmidt AI 2050 fellows, and one of the 2, I believe, from ever from India. And for this year's cohort, he was the only person from India who was awarded this fellowship. And we have Ganapati Krishnamurthy, who does a lot of very interesting work on medical imaging, AI for medical imaging, and works with multiple practical solutions as well. And Geeta Krishnan, who heads the MINT collaborative, who works in intelligent transportation. Harish Guruprasad, who will join us a little later today, but works in machine learning, learning theory, and optimization. Karthik Raman, who does a lot of work. I already mentioned about the microbiome stuff that he was doing, but he also does a lot of work in biological data analytics and computational systems biology. So we have Lakshmi Narasimhan, who works in AI for wireless communication, statistical signal processing. Mitesh, we already saw, looks at Indian language AI, and also heads the Bodhan AI initiative right now. And Nandan Sudarshanam, who heads the EduReach project, works on statistical experimentation with machine learning and data mining. Nirav Bhatt, who works with process analytics, AI-driven process analytics and process modeling, and also actually in reinforcement learning quite a bit. And Patanjali, one of the, again, newer faculty who joined us, he works in AI for system design and AI for hardware and cybersecurity. Professor Raghu Rangaswamy, who has been amazing. So he is not just does theoretical stuff, but he also has multiple startups that work in this AI space, right? So he looks at AI for process system engineering and data-driven methods and physics-inspired AI model, and looking at model-based and data-driven, combining model-based and data-driven model AI. Right? And Shivaram Ambika Sharan, who works in computational and applied mathematics for building more efficient machine learning algorithms, and is actually published several widely used ML libraries. And Sridhar Kumar Narasimhan, who works in AI-driven process systems engineering. And Suman Kundu, who works in network science and graph data mining. And our latest joinee, who's joined so recently, I haven't had time to add him to the slides, is Professor Winkle Srivastav, who works in AI for healthcare. Right. And we have several high-profile visiting chairs who come spend at least a few weeks in the department and actually co-advise PhD students here. So this Srini Parthasarathy from Ohio State, Sriram Natarajan from UT Dallas, Venkat Ramaswamy from University of Michigan, and Venkat Subramanian from Columbia University. So these are visiting chair professors, and we are hoping to grow this to enable more deeper collaboration with some of the top people in the world. And we also have several professors of practice. This is Ramakrishnan Srinivasan, who helps with the Mint Collaborative, Anil Ananthaswamy, who's a very famous science writer, who is now collaborating with us in defining various future directions to work on, and as well as train our students to become better science communicators. And Dr. Neeti, who works in AI for education and who is also very part of Bodhan.ai. And we also have Dr. Kandaswamy, who is working in AI and law enforcement. There's a lot of research in AI law enforcement. And like I said earlier, so we have wide-ranging collaborations across multiple sectors, industries, both within India, outside India, as well as not-for-profit organizations, plus governmental bodies. So I'll just leave the slide here for another 5 seconds so that you can take a look at it. But you can also find some of this information off our page. Right? So whether it is, companies like Apple and Google and Ericsson, GE, Applied Materials, Society General, there should be a Dassault Aviation somewhere. Yeah. And or whether there's a government like the 108 ambulance service or the actual Tamil Nadu government itself, and the Ministry of Statistics and the Ministry of IT and the Ministry of Education. So a lot of collaboration that happen across the board. Right. So I hope I conveyed a sense of the breadth and depth of activity that happens here at the Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI. And I invite all of you to apply for the MS and PhD program. I'm happy to take more questions. And I'm not able to see if Harish has already joined. Yeah. So Harish, do you want to talk a little bit about the application process itself? Okay. Harish?
Hey, hello, Ravi. Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear now. Yeah. So I was just wondering if I just gave the brief about the department. I was just wondering if you want to talk a little bit about the application admission process itself, what they should be looking at.
So Balaji might have a better idea of that. So I don't have the full details with me right now. Let me just 1 sec.
Okay, I can give at the high level, I can give the details. Right? So basically, the application process is open right now. So you have to submit your application through the IIT Madras portal for the MS and PhD programs, and there are different categories of admission. So the most of you would be applying to the through the regular pathway, which is if you're applying for the MS program, we would require you to have a gate score and also share your GPA over multiple semesters and so on and so forth. And there will be a shortlisting process that we will go through based on your qualifying degrees, as well as your CGPA, gate scores, and other exam scores. And based on that, you will be invited for an interview process, right? This will consist potentially of a written test as well as an interview. And the actual details of whether the interview will happen online or offline, we will let you know shortly. Once, if you are registered for this webinar, we'll certainly make sure that we send the information to you once we have all the details. And the actual syllabus for the written test and interview is available on the webpage. You can look that up if you want to. Right. And apart from the interview and written test conducted by the department, there will also be a research aptitude test that is conducted for all applicants for all degrees by the institute itself directly. So you will get information about the research aptitude test as well. Right. So that's basically the very high level details on how this thing will work. Right. And so how are we going to do this? Amrita? Yeah. So should I take questions by calling on people or just reading the?
No, you can just read from the chat.
Is there an option to do a part-time self-sponsored PhD for working professionals like software engineers? Well, that is a part-time PhD program that we have, right? So all part-time PhD programs do not have a scholarship from the institute, right? So it is, in that sense, it's self-sponsored. So there are a few restrictions to this, right? So when you're doing a part-time PhD, we expect you to be, working in either an academic institution or in a research institution which has an atmosphere in which you can do research. It's not like if you're, if you're doing a startup or you're unemployed, they can come in just like that for a part-time position. So you have to be working at an organization that supports research, and you also need the permission from your organization. Because part-time PhD would require you to at least spend one semester at IIT Madras on campus doing coursework. So that becomes a challenge, right? And the other thing is, if you're working in a company in the IIT Madras Research Park, again, you have an option of applying for part-time PhD from there because you're already on campus. But otherwise, there are certain conditions. More details are available in the research.iitm.ac.in webpage. So there is no special part-time pathway for DSI. It's the same condition that apply to the to all applicants to the institute, right? And do I need to have a published paper before applying for a PhD WSAI? No, it's not compulsory. It's not mandatory, but it would help. I did my postgrad in economics with specialization in advanced econometrics from Jadavpur University. Can I apply for a data science AI PhD? I've cleared GATE 2025. Sure. So for a PhD program, we actually don't ask for a GATE score, and people with the econometrics background can apply for the PhD. The only the challenge is you'll have to clear the entrance exam, but given that you have an econometrics background, it shouldn't be too hard because the entrance exam is mostly on linear algebra, probability theory, and a little bit of statistics. Right, so you should be able to clear the exams, and after that, it would be how well you do in the interview. So I think if you prepare well for the interview, you should be able to do it, and there is nothing that's stopping you from applying because you have an econometrics degree. From a psychology background, skills in Python, SQL, and data analytics. How can someone like me prepare for a PhD in applied AI, especially in areas like responsible AI or behavioral analysis? So if you come from a purely non-tech background, then it would be a challenge, right? So if you come from a purely non-tech background, it would be a challenge doing meaningful deep research in AI ML. So you would need to have a strong mathematics background. And so we do work with students from other departments. So if you have a psychology background and you want to work on responsible AI for behavioral analytics, you could potentially come in through the humanities department and work jointly with the faculty here and the humanities. And IIT Madras is also soon launching a school on information and society. And then that could potentially be a pathway for people coming from more social sciences background who want to work on impact of information technology on society and so on and so forth. But if you want to really come in through the DSI PhD program, I would recommend shoring up your math background, not just the programming background, before you apply to the program, before you apply for admission here. Yes, so the question is any work in AI accelerators, GPU, computer architectures, and so on and so forth. So we actually are collaborating with the computer science department, particularly the Shakti Processor Initiative, on looking at multiple AI accelerator design. In fact, IIT Madras showcased one of our AI accelerator early prototypes at the India AI Impact Summit recently. And we are hoping to push the boundary on that. And we are also a lot of work on architecture for AI, SysML, and AI for architecture development. So both with the faculty here leading it, and also collaborating with the Shakti initiative in the CS department. We also have several collaborators across the globe who work with us in this kind of SysML kind of an area. Oops. Okay.
Professor, can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What happened?
Can I request you to stop the screen share so that we can see your face in full?
Oh, stop the share. Oops. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh man. Okay. Are we back on?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. What is the eligibility criteria to apply for MS? I mean, so we expect you to have had a 4-year undergraduate degree, and fairly broad. I mean, any tech space is fine, and we also expect you to have a valid GATE score, and the list of accepted disciplines is there on the webpage. It's a fairly long list. I don't want to write it off. But you can look at the webpage to know about the exact qualifying norms for this. Right? Hello, sir. Should we opt for MS or MTech first and then move to PhD, or directly go for PhD? I'm from NIT Srinagar, and I'm sure I want to study more and do research in it. Good question. So direct PhD is an option for you because you are coming from centrally funded technical institute, CFTI, and you could, if you have a high enough CGPA, you can apply for a direct PhD. But if you're not sure if research is what you want to do, and if you've not had experience, working on research projects in the past, right? So I would recommend that you go for a MS or an MTech program. And then because we allow conversion, so from the first semester of your MTech or MS, you can actually, if you're doing well academically, you can convert to the PhD program. So if you're not sure about, if you've not had experience doing research earlier, because research is a very different ball game compared to doing coursework, and so if you've not had that experience, I would recommend that you go through a master's program. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think I've been answering questions for a while. So let's hear a little bit from Professor Harish Guru Prasad now. I was hoping that I was trying to bring him in earlier, but Harish, I would, do you want to come in and talk a little bit more about your research? So like I already introduced Harish during the faculty intro slide. So Harish works on AI and optimization for machine learning, and looking at questions with regard to understanding, how exactly deep learning functions. So Harish, over to you.
Hello, Professor Ravindran. Thanks for the intro. Hello, everyone. The DSci department works on a wide range of research problems. We work on applied areas like NLP, medical image processing, and a wide variety of applied domains. We also have several faculty who work in a theoretical domain. So, for example, I work in a mostly theoretical domain. So, as Professor Ravi mentioned, we do expect all the MS and PhD candidates to have a very strong mathematical background, right? So the fundamental nuts and bolts of AI is finally mathematics, right? So yes, programming is required to implement the mathematics, but at its core, the computers are really just a tool to implement your infinite pen and infinite paper, right? So that's an infinite time, right? So that is whatever the computer is doing, you should be able to do. Let's say you go to the hyperbolic time chamber in Dragon Ball Z, and you should be with infinite pen and infinite paper. You should be able to do what the GPT-5 is doing, right? So, of course, you have to have some data there, but whatever the AI is able to do, you should be able, because that's all that's happening, right? So internally, that's all that's happening, which is just additions, subtractions, and multiplications. That's all that's happening. Okay? So, but to understand AI at that level, you need strong mathematical background. And so, for example, I work in the question that excites me and our group the most is why does deep learning even work, right? So I think at this point we have to accept that it works, but why does it work, right? So there is if you're familiar with any kind of optimization theory or machine learning theory, there's a billion trillion reasons for AI to fail, right? But despite that, it works, right? So why does it work, and what properties of the data is essentially extracted by your algorithms, and when can it fail, and is that have we really reached the limits, right? So which is one particular question that's, let's say let's say you are well, one analogy I like to give is that we are in the era of steam engines before thermodynamics, right? So steam engines have, if you know the history of thermodynamics and steam engines, James Watt invented steam engine in 1600s, but Kelvin and all those folks will really formalize thermodynamics only about 100 years later, right? Until then, you can't even, let's say you are in the period between James Watt and Kelvin, right? So if someone asks, okay, can I just dump enough coal into let's say a burner? Can I go to the moon with it, right? It seems unreasonable, right? So maybe no, but you couldn't have really concretely said no, right? So what's the amount of coal that you can dump into maybe there is some amount of coal which you could dump in at a certain pressure that maybe that will go to the moon. That was not really, you can't really answer the fundamental limits of thermodynamics, fundamental limits of the steam engine. You could not really have answered, right? But now after you do all your heat and entropy and energy understanding, now you can concretely answer, yes, it's to reach the moon, let's say using a steam engine, you would require the amount of coal would be, let's say, greater than the amount of coal on the planet Earth or something like that, right? So that tells us something, right? So that impossibility statement would have been impossible before thermodynamics, right? So we are right now, at least in the context of deep learning and AI, in that era, right? Steam engines are useful, right? So without even thermodynamics, steam engine was useful, right? So you use that to transport, let's say, soldiers and machinery to the war or whatever, right? So it's definitely useful. Thermodynamics was not necessary for steam engine to be used. In the same way, right now, deep learning theory is not really necessary for AI to be useful, right? It is useful by itself. But what exactly are the limits? Have we reached those limits? Those questions are still wide open, and to answer questions at that level, you need a fundamental understanding of the mathematical details. So there will be a wide range of prerequisite courses that you have to do, right? So there is at least 3 almost pure math courses that are core courses for all MS and PhD scholars that will get you up to speed to a certain extent. So the prerequisites per se are just high school level math, right? So you have to be just comfortable with, let's say, very basic calculus, very basic, like just differential calculus. You need to be just, let's say, if I differentiate x power n, I get nx power n minus 1, or just a slope let's say a slope understanding of differential calculus. That's sufficient, and a basic understanding of algebra, right? So that's all that is really required to get up and going. But it's important that you don't give up on math, right? So just you can easily build on abstractions in the same way, right? So you could have easily given up on thermodynamics and build bigger and bigger steam engines. That's definitely an option, right? But that's not what we are training to do. It's as a PhD or a MS in data science and AI, you are not out there to just build bigger and bigger. You can absolutely do that, but that's not the only thing you will be trying to do, right? So it's just you will also have to understand why, or at least try to understand why these big steam engines, why do they work, right? So, and to do that, you need the math basics, so that you can do that kind of work, right? So that's an example of the work that I do. There are other let's say other faculty who work on things like that's another analogy to use with ML and AI, is that well, until recently it was a child, right? So for a child, there are very basic expectations, right? So it just has to let's say do well in its exams, right? So that might be your basic expectation, right? But once you become an adult, right? So that's not the only goal, right? So you have to contribute to society, you have to be a responsible citizen, you have to pay your taxes, you have to do all that, right? So now AI has become way more mature, and you have more expectations out of it than just accuracy, right? So an example might be, you might want it to be fair, you might want it to be not biased towards any group of people, or you might want it to maintain privacy. These are all more advanced requirements that you might have of an AI machine. Without accuracy, none of these are meaningful, right? So if you have a zero accuracy model, none of these are meaningful. But given that you do have accuracy, you do need to worry about these more advanced requirements, and how to build algorithms which satisfy these requirements, right? So that's another major aspect of AI and ML, and we have several folks who work on that as well. So that I hope that gives you an idea of the theoretical work that happens here. So as for the applied work, I don't think I'm the best person to give you an idea here, but pretty much a lot of the applied domains are represented, right? So language, images, all that is represented. Yeah, right. Any questions that you might have for me, or Professor Ravi?
No. So I was just going to say that I've been talking quite a bit about both sides of work, but thanks for giving the deep dive into the theoretical side of things, which is very useful for people to understand, right? So that, because quite often people think all AI research is LLM, so we really need to disabuse them of the notion that there's still a lot of hard fundamental questions that need to be addressed here, right? So thanks for that. And so, I mean, we are still taking questions. So do you want to take this about working professionals? What are the pathways for them to do a PhD here? Harish?
Oh, was it a question to me?
Yeah, I'm just saying, do you want to take that question? I mean,
yeah, so I don't, I think those questions, it's better. I mean, I'm not really sure of
okay, fine. I'll answer that. So yes, there are many pathways for working professionals to come in, right? So I already talked a little bit about the part-time PhD option. And we also have something called an external or a sponsored PhD, right? So in the external PhD option, so you are already working for a research organization, right? It could be like an industry research organization, like Adobe Research or Google Research or anything, and you could then apply with the backing of your organization. Or you could come in as a sponsored candidate where you're working for a government research lab like a DRDO or an ISRO, and then you could come as well, right? From with the sponsorship of the organization. So you have to come and spend a semester here. The application process is the same. You'd have to upload a few additional documentation, both for part-time and for sponsored external categories. Which essentially is your employer's endorsement that they will let you do a PhD or an MS at IIT Madras. But one other crucial piece that you have to have is a research proposal that you have worked on in collaboration with one of the faculty here. Right, so this we ask because quite often when you're doing a part-time PhD, you tend to get lost in your work schedule. So it's always good to have a clear goal as to where you want to go, right? What is it that you want to address during your PhD before you start the PhD? So we kind of insist that you have discussions with the faculty a few months beforehand, right? And then prepare a proposal, detailed proposal, and then apply along with the proposal to the program. So we'll actually, when you come in for an interview, we'll ask you questions about the proposal as well. So that is something that we encourage people to do if you're applying as a working professional. So like I said, that's both the part-time and as well as a sponsored/external category. And I already described the part-time thing earlier, and you can always go back if you're registered for the webinar. You can always watch the recording later and figure out what we said about that. Right? And we did talk a little bit about the process itself, and I also said we will share a very detailed document, hopefully in the next couple of days, to all the people who registered for the webinar, and also have it up on the department webpage. Right? So, here's an interesting question. So maybe I'll I'll take a stab at it, and Harish, maybe you can also take a stab at it later. How can one identify the domain of PhD that they should choose? So that's not an easy question to answer. Typically, when people come in, if they've already done a master's and they have had some amount of experience working in these areas, right? They come in with the sense of what they want to work on, right? So it's not that they come in completely blank, right? And so they've read some they've already done some work during their masters, either as part of a research project or part of their course project, and but they also have been reading some papers and have looked at some of the literature, and something excites them and they come in. Usually many of the PhD students come in with a passion for working in a specific area, right? If you're coming in otherwise, right? So typically talk to various faculty. So we actually give students quite a amount of liberty to go have discussions with faculty over the first several weeks, and perhaps a couple of months. And so you can talk to the faculty, hear about what they are working on, and then try to pick directions that excite you. And so remember that it's not typically written in stone, right? So you start working in an area, and then as you mature, you actually move on to other domains and also specialize in those, right? So this is something which my advisor used to say, that a PhD is the start of your research career, not the end of it. So it is not like you are stuck with what you do in your PhD program. It's essentially something that trains you how to do research well. And from here on, you can branch out and do other things as well. So Harish, you want to add something to that in terms of how do they identify domains?
Yeah, that's correct, right? So PhD is a long-term investment, right? So it's a typical PhD duration is 5 years, right? So that's the so it's, and the biggest issue with the PhD is that there are no clear the biggest issue with the PhD is that there are no clear intermediate goals, right? So which is, for example, if you are doing a BTech, you have, okay, semester 1, I'm supposed to do 5 courses. Semester 2, I'm supposed to do 5 courses. You kind of have a progress bar, right? So you have a progress bar running. Okay, I have to finish by the end of my 8 semesters. I have to finish these 20 courses, and this is my requirement. You have a progress bar running in front of you. With a PhD, the biggest issue is that you will not have a progress bar always visible, right? And so you must derive the internal motivation yourself, right? So there is no one to break you can take help of your guide or advisor, but there is no program which will already break your big objective into smaller objectives, right? So a BTech program, let's say if you have 20-30 courses, it's broken up into individual courses, and they are organized into semesters. A lot of the breaking up of the entire BTech program into smaller objectives, sub-objectives, that's already done by the program. A PhD does not do that, right? So PhD, it leaves it to you, of course, your guide to break down the, or rather, how to come up with the problem, how to break the problem, how to measure progress. All of those are really up to you, right? So that means that you have to derive the motivation for, when you find that you are having a year without any progress, you still have to find the motivation internally, right? So the problem should drive you, right? So it will strike you, right? So if let's say you have not yet decided to do your PhD, and you are asking like, okay, should I do my PhD in quantum physics or evolutionary biology or let's say AI? That level of area, if you have doubt, I think you should wait before committing, right? So it is okay to have some level of, let's say, oh, I don't know if I'm going to work in let's say optimization theory or generalization theory, right? So that's okay, right? So that level of uncertainty is acceptable. Or I don't know if I'm going to work in, let's say, images or video, right? That level of uncertainty is acceptable, right? But if you have a very high level of uncertainty, you should wait out, right? And the uncertainty, you will get it resolved over time, right? So if you are doing a PhD, of course, you have to choose a guide almost immediately, after talking to the different faculty. But most guides will give you some freedom, right? So which is what approximate area to work with, and you can use your guide to figure out what area to work with. but the motivation has to come internally, right? So which is, you should not work on a problem because someone else told you to, right? So you should work on a problem because that problem is keeping you awake at night, right? So that's the ideal case scenario, right? So you would work on the problem even if nothing, like, of course, assuming you get your survival needs met, you want to work on the problem, right? So that driving force is necessary. I mean, without that, it's hard to sustain. I mean, when the going is good, right? So let's say you're succeeding every year, you're getting a paper, no problem, right? So you don't need the motivation, right? So it is only when the going gets tough you need internal motivation, and for that, you need to have you need to have some sense of what to do, right? So it's a little bit of uncertainty is fine, but if you're really uncertain, wait it out, right? That's exactly what the master's program is for, right? So you take the master's program to figure out what you really want, and right? So yeah, so the guides are out there to help you figure out what you want. So ideally, you do your courses, you have some idea. Oh, I did this course on differential privacy. That looks like a lot of interesting problems out there. I did a course on this deep learning, and then the idea of using CNNs for working on images sounds very interesting, right? So you will get something which excites you, right? So once you get something which excites you, that should be the seed for building your PhD problem. Yeah. Right. So AI now shifts the research landscape every 2 years. In such a fast-moving environment, is a 4 or 5 year PhD still relevant, or is the traditional timeline becoming obsolete? Well, we don't know, right? So, the point is, as Professor Ravi said, it's the PhD is not the problem, right? PhD is really training to think. Like that's really the PhD, right? So if you have a process for, let's say, here's the thing, right? So I give this example. I used to use the example. I don't know. There are probably several other examples. There are people who change areas like so drastically, but they still do really well. So one example I used to give was there was this Professor Alan Ewell from UCLA. Right? So he did his PhD on astrophysics with Stephen Hawking, right? But he's an AI expert, right? So astrophysics has literally nothing to do with, not much to do with AI and ML, but he works in, let's say, he used to work in graphical models and all that, right? So you can change areas, right? So it's not that the PhD restricts you to, its PhD is really the thought process, right? So is 4 or 5 years relevant for training? Well, it's still 4 or 5 years, right? So a BTech program is 4 or 5 years. So, but it's up to you to see whether a 5-year investment is worth it. Right? It is quite possible that it is not worth it, right? So it's not worth it for everyone, right? It is worth it for the right type of person, right? So a 5-year investment into a PhD is worth it for the right type of person.
So, just to add quickly to what Harish was saying, the landscape is changing very fast, right? It is not just the AI landscape is changing; the academic landscape is also changing, and the traditional model of somebody doing a PhD being kind of sequestered from industry exposure and things like that are also changing very, very rapidly, right? So a lot of our PhD students do work on industry specified problems and so on and so forth, and so that again enables you to keep pace with what is happening, what is changing. But what you are really getting is the ability to identify new problems and also move with the times, right? So all of this is valuable training that allow you to solve and get ahead in your research career, regardless of how long you spend here. Perhaps you can finish a PhD in 3 years or 4 years or 2 years. I don't know. It's up to you. How quickly you are able to make an impact and how quickly you're able to demonstrate that you're able to do high quality research. And that's about the thing. So 4 or 5 years is not a sacrosanct time limit that you have to hang on to. Okay, so there is a question on research on environmental effects of large-scale AI, and you had released a report in Jan that the world is going towards global water bankruptcy. I'm interested in working in this area for making AI efficient, sustainable. There is no large-scale effort on looking at the environmental impact of AI right now, but we certainly have. I mean, IIT Madras has a School of Sustainability as well, and we have people who are working with the School of Sustainability, looking at different aspects of use of AI for solving sustainability problems. But I mean, if there is a strong interest, I'm pretty sure you can find faculty who will help you work in that space. And I'm also answering a question that came up in the Q&A box as well. Right? So the question is, do I have to work on an area of interest to the faculty, or or can I come with my own problem and will faculty help me solve it? So, well, it depends on how mature you are in terms of having defined the problem in sufficient detail that the faculty are convinced that you can you can work on your own with help from the faculty. Typically this happens at the postdoctoral level, not at the doctoral level. But if we do come across a remarkably mature student who knows exactly what they want to solve, right, so we do help, right? It's not like we are looking at you as research help for hire that are here to do the faculty bidding. So the question is, what are ongoing research opportunities for AI and hybrid energy systems? I'm not sure if there's anything that is ongoing yet. So Harish, are you aware of anything on hybrid energy systems?
No, not to my knowledge.
I mean, there are people who are working on battery materials and various kinds of green energy. We even have a whole MTech program on energy systems at IIT Madras. So there is potential for collaborations, but right now there is no research going in that space. Oh man. Oh, man, I already answered multiple questions about PhD opportunities for working professionals. Yes, you could do a PhD at the Walmart Center working on industry-specific problems. In fact, like I already mentioned, several of our PhD students do work on projects funded by industry partners. And they are even full-time PhD students who work on industry-funded projects. We have part-time professionals. I mean, we are working professionals who come in for a part-time PhD, and they also do very impactful work. And there are multiple pathways for that. And yes, whether it is in Walmart Center or at the Center for Responsible AI or AI for Bharat or any or not even affiliated to a center. If you're working on a fundamental research question, as long as the company is willing to support your endeavors at doing a PhD here, so you're welcome to apply. Right now there is so some of the hardware AI work is done in collaboration with the PSC Disha Center at the Computer Science Department. So it's also an interdisciplinary center, even though it doesn't come quite under the Wadhwani school. So some of us, including me and Professor Patanjali, are all part of the PSC Disha Center, and so some of the hardware AI work is driven out of that center. Are there any research projects or professors specializing in areas aligned with spiking neural networks and neuromorphic computing? Yes, there is interest in that area, but there are also people in the computer science department working on it, and they also work in collaboration with the Wadhwani school, and so this is so both well, myself to some extent, but Gopal Srinivasan in the computer science, who he works on spiky neural networks in particular, and also Professor Patanjali, who works on some of the SysML questions, also looks at neuromorphic computing. Anyone else does neuromorphic computing, Harish?
No, I mean, I just know of Gopal.
Okay. So here's a question: how many papers, conferences, journals are mandatory for PhD completion at WSAI IIT? don't count the numbers, man. I mean, look at creating an impact. I mean, you can create great impact with one paper. You can create a lot of impact with, I mean, not create a lot of impact with 3, 4 papers. So there is nothing like you have to produce 5 papers to graduate from here. So I think the institute has certain norms, but think about the impact of the problem that you're solving. Right? Don't worry about bean counting at this early stage in your career. How can we effectively identify problems, especially those that are specific to India? Just look at some of the work that's coming out of the various groups here, and you will see that that we are looking at a lot of problems that are relevant to India, and many of us actually give talks and about this as well. So I think, and also, I mean, quite often I find that the most interesting problem comes from people who are trying to solve things that they see in their lived experience. So think of what kind of problems you can solve around you, right? So that could be so for example, I've seen people come up with very hard questions about, hey, how to solve this particular challenge that people in our village are facing, and then we have to go and brainstorm about the lack of availability of information to a certain sector of people. Very interesting question that can come up from that. But otherwise, you could just look at the kind of work that we are doing already. So I already answered this question. If suppose if someone has their research domain and wants to continue, I said, yeah, we would, as long as we are convinced that the student is mature enough, has done the hard work to understand the domain, and then they can we'll try to support it. But usually this happens at the postdoctoral level, not at the PhD level. But no means it's impossible. So, my God, people still hanging around. 100 plus people are still hanging around. So, more questions, please. I'm not sure we have an age limit for the PhD program. I even know people who are 50 plus who have applied for the PhD program. I don't think that's a specific age limit for the PhD program. I don't think there is one for the MS program either, but you can verify from so go to research.iitm.ac.in. All these kind of procedural details are there, but to the best of my knowledge, there is no age limit for either program. And yeah, like I already explained the process. So there is an application deadline. I think the portals close by March 30th. So you have to get in your application by then. After that, there will be a shortlisting process. And if you are shortlisted for the second stage, we will call you for a written test / interview, right? And then there will be also a research aptitude test that is conducted by the institute itself directly. So you have to go through both these exams, and then at the end of if you are selected through the written process, then there will be an interview, right? So the exact dates and details are still being decided, and so we'll hopefully we'll be able to send you this information by this weekend. So we'll send it out to all the registered participants, like I mentioned. So if you're directly interested in just engaging with research in any one of the centers, the question here is about getting engaged with Bodhan in terms of education research. You can directly write to the either the center coordinator or the faculty associated with these centers to ask about opportunities at the centers. Almost all the research centers have various kinds of research associate, project associate positions where you can engage deeply in research without necessarily having to enroll for a degree program. So you should reach out to the center coordinators these specifically. So if any initially start with AI ML research work for paper publication, wish to work on quantum inspired work like quantum AI ML for subsequent level of work for publication. I mean, it's not like you work from publication to publication, right? You're trying to solve like an interesting problem, right? If the problem needs quantum solutions, you might actually go there. Or if you want to do more fundamental research in quantum AI ML, you could choose to work in that area as well, right? So there is a strong quantum computing group in IIT Madras. Not necessarily a lot of people at the Wadhwani school are working in this space, but you can certainly explore that as a research area. I forget the name of the center, but that is a quantum computing center. So, Harish, do you recall this is IBM funded center, right? On quantum computing?
Yeah, I don't really remember that. Yeah,
Professor, it's
But you can.
quick.
Sorry?
It's called C Quick.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe you can. Is there ongoing work in brain representation? Among the perspective of deep learning representation, can you move towards evaluating brains by understanding representation in AI? So sometime back when I had a chance to had an interaction with Demis Sasabe, that's a question I asked him. Hey, what is it that we have learned about the brain by understanding more on AI? And he kind of gave a cop-out answer. I'm not sure. I'm not sure we are actually started going the other way yet. In terms of understanding the brain better by understanding representations in AI. But certainly there are a lot of brain-inspired representation learning that is happening, both from a neurological standpoint, but also from a behavioral standpoint. A lot of research that happens both. And we have people in WSAI who are working in that space as well. I work at a fintech firm working on AI security, external PhD program. So the external PhD program requires you to be working at an institute or a lab which is recognized as a research lab either by the Department of Science and Technology or by IIT Madras, right? So if you have that recognition for your organization, then you can apply for the external PhD program. Otherwise, it might be possible to do a part-time PhD, but so you'll have to check. So why don't you write to us specifically, and we can give an answer on that. Yeah. What matters more, the institute tag or the supervisor, considering the future landscape and abundance of resources available, especially in the field of AI? Oh, Harish, I'm going to throw the ball to you on this.
I mean,
what matters more, the institute tag or the supervisor?
I would say, I mean, they are correlated, right? So you are not likely to find, let's say, you will not likely to find, let's say, Albert Einstein in Mannar Institute of Technology and Science, right? So it's definitely correlated. But for the given institute, whom do you go to? Well, first, right? Yeah, it's a difficult question. So it really changes. For a given institute, whom do you go? That's really the question, right? So that really depends on you talking to the faculty there and figuring out what you have in common with them. Like what does sometimes it's actually complementary, right? So that's the skills self needed to be complementary, right? So there are, at least very broadly, you can group people into two types, right? So one is if you have a lot of ideas, but you need actually someone who brings order to those ideas, right? So the ideas are all chaotic, they are disorganized, and you want someone who brings order. Or you're very systematic, but you lack the let's say the idea generation spark, right? So in that case, you need the other, right? So these two are very complementary, right? So really, it's about the match. It's not you can't rank, let's say, faculty or advisors or institutes. It's really about what matches you, right? So that's really the ultimate goal here. But it's what matters more is what matters more is your work, right? So that's when compared to your hard work and diligence, pretty much everything else is negligible, right? So if you put in the hard work and diligence and diligently work towards your goals, neither the institute nor the guide actually matters, right? So that's the real truth there. But these things can help, right? So they are not independent again, right? So having a good guide and having a good institute can help you work harder, right? So because the amount of hard work and the amount of that we can put out is not in a vacuum, right? So if you have a guide, if you have an institute which is encouraging hard work, you can put in the hard work. So right, so I'm not going to be able to give you a concrete answer on what is more important, because I don't think there is an answer for that. But one thing I can tell you is that your input, your diligence, your hard work is way more important than anything else.
Other questions? The question is, are there opportunities to pursue a PhD in quantum machine learning or quantum deep learning? I think we answered this already, a related question. So yes, and it would be in collaboration with perhaps the quantum center at IITM. Or, yeah. But there is any faculty here whose primary research area is quantum machine learning in the department? No.
I think, Professor, might be the time to conclude the webinar.
I have one interesting question to ask here. So one of the questions somebody is asking is, I'm concerned about the increasing ability of AI on generating realistic images. It has led to a lot of paranoia among public as well as us. Okay, you're not part of public. Okay, how can we work towards resolving that in PhD? So there's a lot of work that is actually happening in IITM, particularly in the Center for Responsible AI, on trying to address this kind of deep fake detection, and as well as both image as well as audio deep fakes, right? So that is another huge challenging area, especially for Indian population, because you can generate this in so many different languages, and even if a model is good at detecting deep fakes in one language, it might not be so good in another, right? So that's a lot of this that needs to be done. And so we do have active research and collaborations with both civil society organizations as well as other research labs they are working in this space, right? So again, we could potentially work on this. So Harish, you have anything to add in terms of closing words?
Nothing else. I don't have.
So let me just say, close off this thought, right? So right now, right? So we are at a very, very interesting time. I think, like I said in my opening remarks, AI is really causing a huge change in almost every walk of life. It's not just a question of jobs, but even society. And the last question was asking about trust, right? So we are even beginning to doubt the levels of trust that are being in your social interactions now, right? Because anything that is online can potentially be fake. And soon we are going to get this into more offline mechanisms as well, whether it is healthcare, whether it is legal services, everywhere you're going to see AI play a role, right? And so we have to take the lead and make sure that India is at the forefront of this AI revolution, doesn't get left behind. And I have to say that the Wadhwani school is one of the top places that you can participate in this, and we certainly would welcome more innovative ideas to come in from people who are coming into the program, and also looking for future collaborators from many of you. And like we said here, so any other queries which you don't feel have been answered here, you can send a mail to office@decide.iitm.ac.in. It's there in the chat window, you can copy it. And you can send this to that email ID after the webinar. Don't start typing away right away. Give us some time, and then we can also, once we have more details about the exact dates of the process and things like that, we'll also send mail to everybody who registered for the webinar, whether you showed up or not. Thank you, folks. Have a good day. And good luck with the admission process.
Thank you, professors. Thanks a lot for joining.